Well, distinguished delegates, leaders of nations, brothers and sisters of Africa, and citizens of the world who are watching, I stand here not as a politician trained in the polished arts of diplomacy, but as a soldier who has walked with his people through dust and hunger, who has felt the cry of children when schools are empty, who has seen villages abandoned because hope itself was stolen. I stand here with no golden pen in my pocket, no promises of compromise, no veil of polite silence. I stand here with only truth, and truth is sometimes sharper than any weapon. And so, let me begin with words that may disturb some in this room. Africa owes you nothing. Nothing. Not a single coin, not a single apology, not a single bow of the head. It is you who owe us the truth, and it is time the world hears it. For too long, in this very hall, the voices of African leaders have been forced into the language of begging, of negotiating, of pleading for crumbs that fall from tables in New York, in Paris, in Brussels. They told us to speak softly, to say please, to be diplomatic, to be grateful for what little is given back after so much has been taken. But today I will not plead. Today I will not flatter. Today I accuse. I accuse an institution that sits in this hall with arrogance, cloaked in the language of assistance, while it has drained the lifeblood of nations. Today I indict the International Monetary Fund for 7 crimes against my continent, and I do so in the sight of the world, so that history cannot say, Africa remains silent. The first crime is the endless debt trap. Look at Ghana, our proud sister, rich in cocoa, rich in gold, rich in culture, rich in the unbreakable spirit of her people. In 2022, Ghana was compelled to accept a so-called bailout, $3 billion, wrapped not in generosity but in chains. They called it assistance, but it was a pact written in the ink of dependency. And what has come of it? The chains of debt. Today, Ghana owes the IMF more than $2.7 billion in special drawing rights. Instead of her wealth flowing into the classrooms of her children, it flows into the accounts of creditors abroad. Instead of hospitals rising for her people, interest payments rise for foreign bankers. Instead of fertile lands feeding her farmers, Ghana's revenues are siphoned across the Atlantic. A whole nation mortgaged. A whole future signed away in exchange for crumbs dressed as aid. And Ghana is not alone in this prison without bars. Beside her stands Ivory Coast, another jewel of Africa, exporting cocoa beans by the millions of tons, exporting rubber, exporting sweat and labor, while importing poverty. Year after year, she feeds the markets of Europe with her harvest, yet her people cannot afford the very chocolate made from their toil. This is the paradox of the debt regime. The more we produce, the less we own. The harder we work, the poorer we remain. These are not loans, they are shackles. This is not aid, it is a noose. Every rescue package is a rope that tightens with every breath we take. They bind us not for years, but for generations, ensuring that the wealth of Africa never waters the soil of Africa, but instead irrigates the empires that once enslaved us. The ledger has replaced the whip. The contract has replaced the chains, but the purpose is the same, to keep us subservient, to keep us dependent, to keep us kneeling before the same powers that plundered us. This is the crime of debt, the theft of tomorrow before tomorrow can even be born. The second crime is forced privatization. I speak again of Ghana, but in truth I could speak of any of us, for this poison spreads across the whole of Africa. The IMF does not come with plows to till the soil, nor with books to open the minds of our children. No, they come with contracts. Contracts not of liberation, but of theft. Contracts designed to strip us of what is ours and hand it over to those who have never sown, never planted, never labored. They came for Ghana's cocoa, the pride of her nation, the lifeblood of millions of farmers, the fruit of generations of toil. And under their reforms, they demanded privatization. They demanded that what was once the collective wealth of a people be parceled out, sold, and seized. And now I ask, who owns the cocoa today? Is it the farmers who bend their backs under the scorching sun? Is it the families who plant saplings and wait years before a single pod can be harvested? No. The cocoa does not belong to them. It belongs to foreign corporations, faceless entities whose headquarters sit oceans away, whose profits sail across the seas while the hands that pick the pods are left with dust. This is not reform, it is robbery. This is not progress, it is plunder dressed in legal language. The farmer receives crumbs, poverty, despair. The corporations receive profits so vast that a single boardroom dinner could feed entire villages for months. And we are told this is modernization, this is efficiency, this is development. But I ask, development for whom? Reform for whom? Efficiency for whom? The same story repeats, sector after sector, country after country. Our water, the most basic gift of the earth, sold to investors who bottle it and sell it back to us at a price our poor cannot afford. Our electricity grids, built by the sweat of our workers, auctioned off so that a child cannot study at night unless her parents pay a foreign-owned company that sets tariffs from London or Paris. Even our soil, our sacred soil, leased to corporations who grow crops not for our hungry mouths, but for export, so that supermarket shelves in Europe overflow, while African children starve a few steps from the fields. And when we protest, they tell us, this is reform. This is what you must accept to join the global economy. But I say, reform for whom? Reform for those who profit, never for those who labor. Reform for the shareholders, not for the farmers. Reform for the empire, not for the people. Privatization is the silent colonization of our age, where once the conqueror came with guns, today he comes with contracts. Where once they took with force, now they take with signatures. And yet the result is the same. Africa loses what is hers, and the world grows fat on her loss. This is the second crime, the forced sale of our inheritance, the commodification of our very existence, the transformation of our sweat into dividends for strangers. They call it reform, I call it theft. The third crime is the destruction of social services. Look at Mali, look at Senegal, look at too many of our nations. They speak to us of conditions as if aid were a gift and not a trap. They call them IMF conditions, conditions for help. But what kind of help demands that you burn your own house before you can enter theirs? These conditions are nothing but commands to dismantle the very foundations of our societies. Slash your health budgets, they say. Cut your education programs, freeze the wages of your teachers, strip the medicines from your hospitals, remove the subsidies that keep food affordable for your poorest. They call it austerity, but I call it cruelty, calculated, deliberate cruelty, imposed with a smile. In Mali, children go to bed with empty stomachs because subsidies for grain have been removed at the demand of foreign lenders. The very bread of life has been priced out of reach in the name of fiscal discipline. In Senegal, hospitals are crumbling, wards are overcrowded, mothers give birth on bare floors because funds are diverted not to saving lives, but to servicing debt. In too many nations, the chalkboards of schools remain empty, classrooms silent, because teachers are told there is no money to pay their salaries. Yet there is always money to pay interest abroad. What kind of assistance is this? What kind of institution looks at a classroom of children and says, your books are too expensive, close the school and pay us first? What kind of lender looks at a pregnant mother in need of medicine and says, your life is too costly, divert the funds to us? What morality is this that demands our children starve before we can borrow a single coin? Austerity is not policy, it is punishment. It is the slow suffocation of a nation's future. It takes away food, it takes away knowledge, it takes away health, and in doing so, it takes away hope. Austerity is nothing but the rebranded whip of the colonizer, cutting into our backs, not with lashes, but with budget cuts. And yet, we are told to endure it. We are told this is discipline. We are told this is the medicine we must swallow. But I ask you, what medicine kills the patient before healing him? What cure demands the death of the child before the recovery of the economy? This is no cure. This is no assistance. This is an organized system of impoverishment, a system that drains the life from our people and calls it progress. It is cruelty given the name of economics, and it is the third crime committed against our nations. The fourth crime is currency destruction. Nigeria knows this pain too well. In 1986, under IMF guidance, the naira was devalued. Overnight, the middle class was destroyed. Prices of imports skyrocketed. Inflation devoured wages. Families who had been stable collapsed into poverty. Do you know what it means for a mother to wake up one morning and find that the money she saved for her child's education has become worthless paper? That was not reform. That was economic warfare. That was the IMF's prescription for stability. Kill the middle class, cripple the workers, enrich the creditors. And today, Nigeria still carries the wounds, scars of a currency manipulated to serve foreign interests rather than the dignity of its own people. The fifth crime is complicity with corruption. Look to Liberia, look to Sierra Leone, nations that suffered wars, that cried out for rebuilding, and the IMF answered by pouring loans into the hands of governments riddled with corruption. The people never saw the money, they only saw the debt. Bridges were not built, schools were not raised, hospitals were not supplied, but the debt remains heavy on the backs of ordinary citizens. Tell me, is this ignorance or is it strategy? Is it incompetence or is it design? Because when you lend to thieves, knowing the money will be stolen, you are not assisting a people, you are buying their chains. The sixth crime is resource plunder disguised as policy. In my own homeland, Burkina Faso, the IMF advised us to focus on exporting gold. Export, 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 they said. Do not build local industries, do not refine, do not manufacture, just dig the gold out of your soil and ship it abroad. And so we did, and what did we gain? Holes in the ground, poisoned rivers, and empty hands. The profits fled with the multinational companies while my people remained poor, watching their land stripped of treasure. This is not policy, this is plunder dressed in the suit of economics. They told us we were too small to build factories, too poor to invest in refineries, too weak to dream of sovereignty. But I tell you now, Burkina Faso may be small, but we are not weak, and we will not let the IMF dictate that we remain beggars while our gold fills foreign banks. The seventh crime is the destruction of sovereignty itself. Look at Niger. Under IMF dictates, Niger was forced to open its electricity sector, its telecommunications, to foreign investors. Do you understand what this means? A nation that cannot control its electricity, a nation that cannot control its communication, is no longer independent. Sovereignty was traded for survival, and now Niger pays higher prices for electricity while profits flow abroad. The very lifelines of a modern state, sold off under the guidance of those who claim to assist us. This is not help. This is recolonization through contracts. This is the new empire, not built with armies, but with spreadsheets. And so I say to you, these are the 7 crimes of the IMF. Debt traps, forced privatization, destruction of social services, currency collapse, complicity with corruption, plunder of resources, and the greatest of them all, the theft of sovereignty. These are not accidents of history. These are not innocent mistakes made by technocrats in offices far away. No, my brothers and sisters, this is a system deliberately engineered, a system designed with precision, with calculation, with malice, a system built not to lift us, but to keep us on our knees, a system that weakens Africa while pretending to rescue her, a system that divides us so that we may never stand as one. It is a system that wears a mask of benevolence, speaking the language of aid and reform, but behind the mask hides the cold smile of exploitation. It is a system that extends one hand as though to shake yours, while the other hand tightens the rope around your neck. It is a system that has no pity, no conscience, no humanity, only the endless hunger of empire, dressed in the suit of economics. But I say to you today, enough, enough. Enough of the chains disguised as contracts, enough of the policies that drain life from our schools, our hospitals, our fields. Enough of the arrogance that tells us our destiny must be signed away in foreign capitals. Enough of the lies that tell us we are poor, when in truth we are rich, richer than those who steal from us, richer than those who enslave us, richer in land, in people, in spirit. Africa is not a beggar at the gates of the world. Africa is the foundation upon which the wealth of the world was built. Africa fed the engines of Europe with her gold, her diamonds, her cocoa, her labor. Africa gave, and still she is told to bow. But today we must rise and say no more. Let the IMF hear us. Let the World Bank hear us. Let all who profit from Africa's pain hear us. The age of submission is over. We will not mortgage our children's future. We will not sell our rivers, our forests, our lands. We will not trade our sovereignty for promises written in foreign tongues. We stand here today to reclaim what is ours, our right to determine our own path, our right to build schools and hospitals before paying bankers, our right to plant and harvest for our children before exporting for profit, our right to sovereignty, dignity, and freedom. 7 crimes, 1 verdict. Guilty, 7 crimes, 1 answer. Enough. Africa does not owe the IMF. Africa does not owe the World Bank. Africa does not owe any institution built on our suffering and designed to perpetuate our chains. No, let the truth be spoken. It is you who owe us. It is you who are indebted to Africa, and no ledger on earth could ever balance the account. You owe us the dignity you stole when you reduced our children to beggars in their own land. You owe us for every empty stomach that cried out because you stripped away subsidies for grain. You owe us for every child who sat in a classroom without books, without chalk, without a teacher, because you said the budget must serve debt before it serves learning. You owe us the wealth you extracted from our soil, the gold, the diamonds, the cocoa, the rubber, the oil that built your skyscrapers while leaving our villages in darkness. You owe us for the endless trains of resources that departed from our ports and never returned, for the sweat and blood of our people that fattened your banks and your empires. You owe us the honor you stripped away when you dared to tell us to be grateful, grateful for loans given with one hand and stolen back with the other, grateful for reforms that broke our farmers, our teachers, our healers, grateful for chains painted to look like gifts. Understand this clearly. This is not about money. No sum could ever repay what you have taken. This is about dignity. This is about honor. This is about justice. This is about the soul of a continent that has endured slavery, endured colonization, endured exploitation, and that now rises to say, no more. Africa does not kneel any longer. Africa does not bow its head in false gratitude. Africa does not accept the narrative of poverty because Africa has never been poor, only plundered. Africa is rich in land, in people, in culture, in spirit, and Africa has decided her wealth will serve her children first, not the creditors of empire. You speak to us of debt, but the true debt is yours, a debt of blood, a debt of labor, a debt of centuries. And know this, the day is coming when Africa will present the bill, not in coins, but in courage, not in numbers, but in unity, not in submission, but in sovereignty. This is the awakening of a continent. This is the reclaiming of dignity. This is the resurrection of honor, and it will not be stopped. Some in this room may say my words are reckless. They will whisper that I endanger my people, that I risk aid, that I invite sanctions. And to them I answer this. My people have been poor for decades under your system. They have endured hunger under your programs. They have suffered under your loans. Do not come to me with threats of poverty. We are already poor. But what we will no longer be is dishonored. Poverty with dignity is better than wealth with chains. Hunger with freedom is better than fullness with servitude. I know some will compare me to Thomas Sankara. They will whisper his name. They will recall his fate. Yes, I know the dangers, but hear me clearly. The spirit of Sankara lives, not in me alone, but in every African who refuses to be silent. Kill one man and you cannot kill a continent. Silence one leader and another will rise. Sankara said debt is a cleverly managed reconquest of Africa. I say it again today in this hall. The IMF is not a savior. It is a conqueror dressed as a banker. And Africa will no longer be conquered. I do not come here only with accusations. I come with a call. To my brothers and sisters across Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Mali, Niger, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, and beyond. It is time we stand as one. No single nation can resist this machine alone. But united, Africa cannot be ignored. United, we can build an African sovereignty fund where our resources, our reserves, our wealth are pooled, not to pay creditors, but to secure our future. United, we can trade with each other, build industries for each other, and lift each other from poverty. Let us stop waiting for permission. Freedom is not requested, freedom is claimed. To the world, I say this. Africa is not your laboratory. We are not your playground. We are not your field of experiments. We are not children who need instruction. We are nations with history older than your institutions, with cultures deeper than your textbooks, with dignity greater than your arrogance. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. Do not mistake our endurance for acceptance. We are rising, and whether you like it or not, the era of IMF chains is ending. And to my people watching from villages, from cities, from schools, from fields, to the mothers who whisper to their children that tomorrow will be better, to the farmers who work the soil with calloused hands, to the teachers who write on chalkboards even when salaries are delayed, to the soldiers standing guard in dusty checkpoints, I say this: your dignity is not for sale. Your honor cannot be measured in dollars. You owe nothing to those who enslaved you with contracts. Walk with pride, for your president has spoken not in fear, but in defiance, and defiance is the seed of freedom. So let it be recorded in the minutes of this assembly, on this day, in this chamber, Africa declared to the world, no more chains, no more debt servitude, no more false reform. Africa owes you nothing. It is you who owe us the truth, and we will accept nothing less. Thank you.